So this week has seen a lot of constructive criticism or negative feedback, whatever you really want to call it, related to the league mechanic. And if you log into the game right now, you're actually going to see there is this button right here called Improvements to the Fate of Evolve. And when you click on it, it's going to open a big list of changes that they are actually going to be making tomorrow. That actually is today because this was posted last night and they are a day forward. So I'm going to explain to you what these changes actually are and what they do. I won't read it for you word for word. I'll actually give you a breakdown of it. First thing they do is they say they focus on technical changes like optimization of crashing and stuff, like basically getting rid of bug fixes, etc. I've been very vocal in the past that I think fixing crashing and major bugs are like the first thing you should do in a league. And so this is like obviously understandable. That was the first thing they were doing. And now they're looking into fixing this. And that was what the last patch is. Now that that patch is done, that's why we're getting this patch as the next one. Plus it took a bit of time for the feedback to actually roll in, but they say the major feedback they get is basically people just saying it's not rewarding enough to actually do the temple. Now, when you place a room in the temple, they have modifiers associated with them. Those are all getting doubled across the board. And 3 of the rooms, the Spy Master, the Golem, and the Thermitage rooms will also give their bonuses for placing them to other specific room types. We don't know what that actually means, and that's actually part of the feedback we've seen, is not knowing which ones apply bonuses to which. So that remains to be seen which one those are going to. In tier 3 rooms, they're adding a lot of unique bosses, like the monkey is one of them, for instance. So this should be pretty interesting. You have an opportunity to like fight more bosses within the temple. So if you place them, can kind of become a bit of a boss rush. And I think this is actually kind of cool because sometimes fighting bosses in and of themselves can be kind of fun. And I think something that could be interesting is maybe I juice my temple up a whole bunch and then I have like a whole bunch of these unique bosses in a row and I just kind of do like a difficult boss rush. Could be kind of fun. Remains to be seen how rewarding that actually is. Typically, boss killing is not the most rewarding venture, but it does sound like at least an interesting angle that you could do in this. The Alchemy Lab room now increases gold found. If this is a buff across in terms of the entire modifiers, like increases gold found percentage, the way I understand this works, and I think the community has been trying to figure out, and to be fair, GG has said previously like the community doesn't get everything right, but my understanding of increased gold found is if you have it on tablets or if you have it on like local knowledge and you go to like the wrong biome, increasing gold percentage as a modifier on a map actually replaces like currency rolls, for instance. So you actually would not want this in terms of like actual juicing of the map. So I'm not sure exactly. Well, it remains to be seen because these are just notes and this patch hasn't hit yet, but we'll have to see if that's a modifier. And if so, I personally will be avoiding putting the Alchemy Lab in if that's the way that that's going to work. But maybe you want to run in, maybe you want to farm gold. So that is an option, and it is a build your own type of dungeon. So they're giving you the option. The much more interesting one is the next one, however, the Treasure Vault, which adds 25% of rarity dropped throughout the entirety of the tempo. Now, I know because I fought at Zeri and I accidentally juiced her up that the map modifiers apply to the at Zeri fight. So if there is, and Treasure Vaults are very common, if I can place 4, 5, 6 of these things here, you can actually juice the rarity of your tempo quite a bit. And if that applies to the at Zeri as well, which it looks like it does from my experience to it, then this would actually be a pretty interesting bonus to set up your tempo to actually kill the boss. I think that's a pretty good change, better than it might seem on first interpretation, because when I read through this originally, I thought these actually don't seem like that big of changes. I went back, I thought about it a little bit, thought, you know what, my at Zeri had a ton of health because I had effectiveness rolled on the map. I bet this will affect at Zeri. If that's true, I could get a lot of rarity bonus to at Zeri, maybe get a good drop from her or something like that. This also will apply to, like I was mentioning here, all of the different bosses that go. So you might be able to really build a tempo to juice up a whole bunch of rarity and fight a whole bunch of bosses and then just see if that, is able to get you some drops. Again, typically unique bosses aren't really where a ton of drops come from, but this is a much more interesting bonuses than we've had previously. Small buff here, after Act 3, the Vow and Alchemy crafting benches will allow you to take their currency and the Exile one, so now you can actually like click the button, get an Exile from the Exile bench or something. This will help you just get a little bit more currency once you get towards the portion of the game in which maybe you don't need an Exile to slam your gear because your gear is already exalted out, so that's a little bit of buff as well. Now this one is interesting, okay? They added a medallion, which is going to give you a random wasto modifier to your tempo for the that lasts for 10 tempo runs. That's basically 60 maps worth, okay? Allowing you to make more difficult and rewarding. Be careful though, you can get some dangerous modifiers. This is great because this actually means that you can again juice the tempo, which is the problem with it, the rewards, and juicing the stuff, giving it difficulty is where rewards are going to come from. So they're kind of doubling down a little bit on the aspect of running the tempo from like a mapping perspective with things like adding the bonuses from the treasury vault. And this, I know people are split on this because some people just want to like go pick up the rewards and then leave the mechanic. They don't want to run it like it's a map. However, this is going to be interesting. This does actually add maybe an angle of stacking these medallions and then rarity, and you have like a really juiced tempo. I'm really curious to see what happens there, but this will come with the caveat of it lasts for 10 tempo runs. So if you get like a minus 12 max player res into damage as extra code, damage as extra fire, damage as extra lightning, damage as extra chaos, and penetration, like on your medallions, good luck, sir. I both like and dislike this. I think that this needs to be paired with maybe a medallion that lets you remove a random one, so that if you kind of brick it for how strong your character is, maybe you have a way of fixing this. Again, player agency, I think, is a big issue with the tempo, but I really like where this is going as a way to like actually be able to kind of customize the tempo further outside of just layouts, but now also from a modifier and reward standpoint. They're going in the right direction, in my opinion. So that's a really interesting change, and I can't wait to see some people, you know, have some damages extra penetration minus res into the monkey, you know, inside the temple. We're going to get some good clips out of that one, so I like that one a lot. Now here you go. Speaking of player agency, added the medallion that allows you to reroll rooms waiting to be placed. So now you have the rooms on the left, you can have a medallion and click it. This is definitely one of my feedbacks, and there was like, please let us get more options or more reroll type of options to actually having the ability to place these. This is a very good quality of life change. And then some changes to the way the Architect actually works. Now, Architect is mandatory. You have to defeat him in order to unlock the Royal Access Chamber in order to actually get to Adzeri. And if you didn't know, you have to defeat him in the level 75 or above area. You can't get into him earlier than that. So for this reason, he was actually kind of annoying to get to because a lot of rooms didn't connect to him, etc. They're changing this here. Reward rooms will now allow you to be placed adjacent to him and connect to him. Halves the number of rooms he destroys when you defeat him. There's like that one clip of Zizran losing his entire tempo. It's fucking hilarious. And then allowing the Architect to connect to any other adjacent room. The tablet research room, this is an interesting one. Outcraftcom can no longer destroy the tablets. So you're guaranteed to be able to do that tablet research and like corrupt your tablets without actually destroying the tablets there. The unique vault room now excludes more common uniques as the level of the tempo rises. So again, you're juicing your tempo, you're getting more rarity, you're increasing the level of it by doing like level 16 waystones, etc. And that means your tempo level is going up, which means you have a higher chance at rarer uniques. Makes sense. I like that. The extraction chamber is now significantly rarer, and you cannot get offered more than one of these at the console table. Sure. Doesn't really do too much for me personally. The extraction chamber, if you didn't know, is the one where you can like remove the runes from the augments, etc. I'm not sure why they're rarer, but you know, maybe that means that people didn't need them as much, and it was taking up spots for the other ones. So therefore, this is sort of a buff to the other rooms. I think is sort of the logic here. And then the last line here, and we'll go over this. We also hear that the feedback from the rewards in the world counter were not high enough in the in-game, nor that address that made the change. When you basically beat it in the map, out from the center comes a chest. It can be a blue or yellow one, a magic or rare chest. Sure, is my response to this. Don't really care. Little bit of like colon stalking there. The chests don't really typically have anything in it, but it's better than a you know, big fat fuck you when you clear them there being nothing there. So you know, something's better than nothing is my response to this. Now, overall, these are fairly quick changes, if we're being honest. They typically go into holiday season right about now. I'm surprised they're still working on a patch. I'm glad to see it. These are what I would consider, some of these are, I think, like conceptually good concept type of idea buffs, which is the ones like the rarity you can add here, and the fact that you can actually have the waystone modifiers. This kind of shifts the dynamic of the tempo a little bit more down the build your own and juicing its side of it in the longevity. I like that. Those are really good changes. The ones that have the unique mobs, etc. in it, that's cool. Makes it a little bit more fun, a little bit more difficult to clear the map. I worry that might make it a little bit longer, but you know, you should want to be staying in the temple as opposed to closing. I think the concept of me being averse to it lasting longer is mostly because right now it's not rewarding. But if it's rewarding, I don't mind it lasting longer because I'm getting rewards. So that's kind of my thought on that there. I will say that there is one other thing that I would like to see mentioned somewhere in here that I don't see mentioned in the patch, which is in and of itself the clarity and sort of the user interface experience of the map. Now, they did address this in one way, which they said that the feedback of people saying you're not getting enough bonuses or connecting enough, they addressed that by the architect connecting a little bit better with the reward rooms, as well as giving you the medallion that can reroll, as well as making it where it removes less in the rooms, etc. So they pseudo are adjusting some of the complaints around like user interface by making where the punishment isn't as bad. So then when the mistakes you make because of the lack of the user interface, it can be less punishing. However, I do think that's a little bit of addressing the symptoms and not so much the disease in this type of situation, which I believe a lot of that strives from the fact that it's very confusing to look at. I think that's more of longer term changes, and they probably couldn't get all of that addressed immediately in like a first week type of patch. Totally fine, understand. These are really good changes, initial changes. I do think that the temple actually needs more changes to be in what a state that everyone's going to be very happy with it. However, not, beggars can't be choosers. Don't look a gift horse in the mouth. All of those types of things. Overall, these are pretty healthy changes, and in particular, the two ones with the rarity and adding the random waystone and the ability to actually re-roll the rooms that you can place. These are all very love to see a type of changes. That's about it. Real simple. I'll be live now. I'm going to start a wolf build. Wolf looks pretty fun. So if you want to come by the live stream, you're welcome to. The link will be down in the description or the pinned comment. Let me know what you think of these changes, and I'll see you on the next video.